Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bible Nerds Podcast. We are now in Numbers, the fourth book of the Bible. And you know what? I have never heard anyone say, "Hey, Brother Bo, I'm reading Numbers and I'm so excited." I've never heard anyone. So it's like, I don't know what the reaction is for people when we started announcing to people. And now we're in the second episode. So they've tasted episode 1. And it's always been this book that you kind of like want to skip. Let's say you have a 1-year reading plan.
Yeah.
Like you want to, okay, I'm going to read out the whole Bible from Genesis to Revelations. And then you Genesis pwede pa, di ba? You've got all these stories and but the moment you hit Numbers with all the names and numbers, it's kinda, should I really read this? Why is this in the Bible? But now we are unpacking it and using a perspective that I really, really think if people will only be not intensely, but intentionally.
Yeah.
The word is, giving a deliberate effort to understand this Bible and the book of Numbers, not from modern eyes, but from ancient eyes. I really, really believe. Stick with us. Guys, just stick with us and you will be amazed at the message.
Yeah.
So here in episode 2, Israel prepares to leave Sinai and journey through the wilderness again. So before that, maybe we need to ask the question, why does it start with the most boring introduction?
Usually, right? When you start something, it should be like eye-catching.
Yeah, it's like something that will make people stick.
Yeah. But why?
Yeah. So the book opens with a long census because God is preparing them for their journey into the wilderness.
Okay.
And so he wants the Israelites to arrange themselves tribe by tribe,
Okay.
counting all the able-bodied men who are ready to fight, right? Because when they're going to step into the wilderness, there's going to be wild animals, there's going to be hostile neighbors, there's going to be all sorts of danger.
Yeah.
All sorts of unknown danger that is going to be in the way of Israel as they go through the wilderness.
It's an unknown place and they need to prepare for that.
Yeah. And so God wants the Israelites to arrange themselves. So this is sort of a picture. This is kind of part of how God is ordering the Israelites.
There you go.
In a certain fashion.
Yeah.
If you think Genesis 1 when God is ordering the universe.
Creation is ordering.
Yeah, exactly. So he's doing the same thing.
So
he's
he's
ordering
creating a nation.
an army actually
Yeah.
to enter into this wilderness.
Yeah.
And so when you read it, so the first it's actually 3 lists.
Okay.
So the first list is the leaders of each tribe.
Yeah.
And then after they call for all the leaders, then they're going to start listing how many able-bodied men there are to be under that leader of that tribe. And then lastly, they're going to count the tribe of Levi separately because they're not going to be part of the warriors.
Right.
The Levites, the tribe of Levites are where the priests come from. So their work will be with the tabernacle. What's just something important to note is while the numbers... The census list here in the start and later on the second census at the end of the book is interesting, and I mean we'll talk about it a bit, but the focus is actually not the
actual number.
The people.
Yeah, the focus is how they're being ordered around the tabernacle.
There you go.
Because that's what's being repeated over and over again.
Yes.
They are being arranged around the tabernacle.
Wow.
And the language and the symbols of the tabernacle are mentioned repeatedly throughout chapters 1 to 10.
Right.
Let me remind people. something we mentioned in previous podcasts, that when you repeat something, when you see something repeated, it is a literary tool that the author is using, pointing to you, hopefully with if he was using neon lights flashing, a repetition is something like a flashing neon light saying, hey, this is important, guys, listen up, and so having repetition, the tribes being arranged around the tabernacle, that's a central point.
And so you could say that God is ordering the nation of Israel not just randomly or just so because it looks cool, but he's fashioning them to make their lives revolve around their movement, and their day-to-day life is going to flow in and out of the tabernacle. The tabernacle becomes the central point of their daily lives,
and they're gonna need that because they're going out into the wilderness, and it's a constant reminder that God is there with them, and God is in the center with them, that in the middle of this wild and waste space, they have the source of life
with them. So they go ahead and they start counting, and so you're reading this like the people of Reuben, Israel's firstborn, their generations, by their clans, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, head by head, every male from 20 years old and upward, all who were able to go to war. Those listed of the tribe of Reuben were 46,500. Right, and they're going to repeat that exact wording for each tribe. Right, so and then you get of the people of Simeon, their generations by their clans. Tribe of Simeon were 59,300. So you're going to get these.
Sometimes I just flow through it like my eyes.
Skip to the end.
And that's understandable. And maybe what pops out is the size of these countings, and this has actually perplexed people for a very long time. How were there so many of these Israelites, able-bodied men? So this list of people, when they're done counting, not including the Levites, because that's going to be a separate count. So these 12 tribes that they counted. Did you know that there was actually 13 tribes of Israel, but they just call them 12?
What?
I only found that out recently.
What?
It's because Joseph had 2 sons.
Okay.
And they count them as half a tribe.
Okay.
So it can stay 12, but it was actually 13.
All right.
Anyway, so the more you know, you can use that at the next party you go to.
Did you know?
Bible trivia. Okay, so the total count without the Levites were 603,550 young men.
Young men.
So if you were to just guesstimate how many women and children there were, you could easily, see a number like 2 million.
Which is astounding.
It's perplexing because how could there have been 2 million people walking in the wilderness around this tent, around the tabernacle, without
in ancient times?
It's kind of crazy.
Camping, imagine.
Camping. So Tish and I have been in charge of youth camps for several years now. And it's already stressful when you have about 100 young people in one campsite. One campsite. So imagine they're going from place to place.
Oh my god.
With 2 million people.
That's so crazy.
Half of them are kids or something. I don't know. No wonder they had so many rules. Just to get these. So how is that possible? And there have been a lot of smart people trying to think of how to solve the problem of, was there really 603,550 people?
Was it factual?
So one option, one possibility is, yes, we just take it for face value. That, if God was really providing for them in the wilderness, providing them food and water every day, then because of God's miraculous power, then somehow 2 million people could have been surviving in the wilderness together, moving as a group somehow.
Yeah.
So that's one option.
Yeah.
Option number 2 is the numbers were actually during the Davidic era.
Okay.
And because the theory is the book of Numbers was written during the time of King David or after that.
Yes.
And so they wanted to put the numbers of during King David's time of the tribes living in the promised land already and then applying it to the people before.
Yeah.
Just want to give a footnote because some modern readers might be raising their eyebrow because we don't think of it that way in modern literature. When you read this, you say, hey, we should be accurate. Journalism accuracy and all of that research.
Right. When we're talking about
statistics.
Census. We're thinking of statistics and we're thinking of like an actual head.
Yeah, this has to be scientific, man. And double check, triple check, Look at your sources, verify.
Well, here we are and we're being challenged by
and just want you to remove your modern eyeglasses again.
Yeah.
Put on your ancient eyeglasses. This is how they did it during that time. This is how they wrote literature. They always prioritized the message, the meaning, and so this is the meaning.
Well, we'll find out the meaning.
Yeah, okay.
Because I mean, so they might be wondering why would they put the
Davidic
the numbers of the tribes during the Davidic the Davidic reign.
Yeah.
I don't know why would they do that one, but that's just one theory.
Okay. What's the option? Is there an option 3?
There's an option 3.
Okay.
And so they think that the way that you write numbers in Hebrew to denote that it's 1,000, they use a certain word for it.
Okay.
But that same word could also refer to clan.
Ah.
So the theory here, if the tribe of Reuben had 46,500 men.
Yeah.
So it would be spelled with the Hebrew number 4 and 6, and the Hebrew word 1,000, and then 500. So what they're saying is it possible that we've just mistranslated the word 1,000 as instead of the word 1,000 is actually family.
Family.
So there. So
it's 46 families.
It's like 500 families of 40 or something.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
Which is a smaller number.
Yeah.
And they've kind of like multiplied it, and it chalks up a more plausible group size traveling through the wilderness.
Yeah.
There are some problems with this theory.
Option 3.
Yeah, because the Levites don't have a
family.
Yeah, they don't have a family because they don't have a digit in the hundreds.
Okay.
So it doesn't really work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they have explanations for it. Anyway, I think the point is we can never really know.
Yes.
What is the how or why?
Yeah. Exactly.
And that is really bothersome for modern people.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't make sense with how we understand how we expect numbers to work. Right. And I was reading this. So the guy who's done the most research on this is this guy named Gary Burge who said this, a different scholar.
Yeah.
But Gordon Wenham was the guy who did most of the research.
Yeah.
And this is Gary Burge talking about Gordon Wenham's research. He was saying that numbers in today's modern age are very cold and very stiff and very, black and white, right? It forms out. Numbers form binary code, and they create software and stuff that, unless you're an expert in that, you don't understand.
Yeah.
But in the ancient world, numbers were always seen as something that was mysterious.
Whoa.
And mystical. And it's almost like you're looking at God's handwriting, right?
I see.
Yeah. And
that is wild.
And so if you could just like step into this thinking or just entertain the thought that there could be more to numbers than just like the data that it contains.
Right.
Yeah. It changes everything, I think.
Yeah.
So whether or not there were actually 2 million Israelites, or the smaller number by multiplying the 1,000 whatever by how many families per whatever, or option two, the Davidic, or maybe it was just wrong and they just whatever, like doesn't matter, because
it does not matter,
because this is the version that we received. Right? This is the version that was preserved by the Jewish people and later on Jesus' disciples. And the size of the numbers communicate this picture of abundance. Of these huge families that God had rescued.
Beautiful.
What was once a group of slaves. Right? Who didn't know their
right from the left.
From the left. But God had brought them to his mountain, and he has taught them and given him his wisdom. And now they're flourishing in the middle of the wilderness. They're being fruitful and multiplying.
There you go. That's the message.
Right? And so the opening of Numbers, just as they're about to enter into, the unknown.
The wilderness.
We see these humans that have been fruitful and have been multiplying. They're now this massive nation. And now being arranged into an army, into a moving camp that will be able to walk in and enter into this unknown space, to the wasteland, to bring that Eden abundance into that. It's almost as if we're reading the first pages of the Bible again. Now that, but it's been reset, and sort of we're seeing this from with a new group of people as the chosen representatives to build Eden.
Wow.
So that's the picture. So I know that it is bothersome for I mean, even for me, like, it's kind of hard to look at this and not just feel a little bit like, why couldn't they make this more make this more palatable for us modern readers? But that's the thing. They didn't write
it for us.
That's true.
They didn't write it to us. But they wrote it for us. And so yeah.
And one of the messages is really or I think you mentioned it already, the fulfillment of God's promise. So God promised to Abraham that you and your descendants will number the stars. Look up, see. And so the author of Numbers was saying, hey guys, look, fulfillment. Once upon a time, elderly couple couldn't bear a child. Now, look at the number of these people. So there, just wanted to say that.
I love that picture where they're first being ordered. It's like they're being recreated, and then
and being appointed.
How Adam and Eve would have been if Genesis 3 did not happen.
That's the picture. That's the picture. So why don't we talk about the significance of them being arranged around the tabernacle?
Right. Okay. So the Israelite camp is divided into 3 zones. First, there's tabernacle, which is said repeatedly is always at the center of the camp. And we have the Levites and the priests' tents around it. They're the ones who get to live closest to it.
They're one of the 12 tribes.
They're one of the 12 tribes.
Technically the 13th tribe.
Yeah, actually.
But
it's a 13th tribe.
But one of the 12 tribes, and they get a special
role
and a special place.
And a special
place. And the camp arrangement where they're the ones closest to. Because they're the people who will be working in and around the tabernacle.
That's right.
So they get to be camped right around them.
And then after that, the 3rd zone is the rest of the 12 tribes.
Yes.
Surrounding them.
Yes.
Nice.
In the order, in the form, in the arrangement that God told them to.
Yeah.
Right.
And why is that?
Why? Well, why not? No, but there's a certain arrangement where Judah and Issachar and Zebulun are on the east, right? And then in the north you have Asher, Dan, and Naphtali.
Right.
And then in the south you have Gad, Reuben, and Simeon. And on the west side is Benjamin, Ephraim, and Manasseh.
Yeah. And all of this is mirroring what Eden would have looked like.
Because of the 3 zones.
Because of the 3 zones.
Okay, yeah. So when we read Genesis 2, and we read about the garden, there are 3 clear, distinct zones that you can sort of distinguish. You have the tree of life in the center, right? And then around the tree of life is the garden.
Yeah.
The garden where God appoints Adam and Eve to be his priests, to work in the garden, right? And to minister the tree of life abundance to the rest of,
right.
rest of the, well, at least the garden. And then around the garden is the land of Eden.
Yes.
Right. Where the river flows from the...
So you're saying that there's this mirror.
Yeah. There's this mirror between the... So the tabernacle... Sorry. So the Israelite camp is arranged in the same fashion, where you have the tabernacle in the center, and then you have the Levites, and then you have the rest of the Israelites around them in 3 distinct zones.
Yep. And this is revealing that the Israelite camp, is a miniature Eden in the middle of the wilderness.
Yeah.
So the tabernacle is
representative of God's presence.
Yeah.
Right? Just like how the tree of life was.
Tree of life. That's it. The tree of life was at the center of the garden. That's what Genesis 1 says.
Yeah. It represents God's presence in his life.
Yeah.
That Adam and Eve are free to actually eat and participate in. And
amazing.
And the garden space, right, where Adam and Eve worked, right? That's where the Levites and the priests are going to
they have the same job as Adam and Eve.
Yes, they have the same job as Adam and Eve, to minister and act as sort of guardians in between God's holy space in the center to the rest of the people outside.
Yeah.
Which would be the other 12 tribes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's going to be Eden on the move.
Right? Yes.
Eden on the move.
Right, because God's home is actually a tent. And it can be set up and brought down and set up again.
Yeah.
There's special instructions that God gives to the Levites on how to do that, how to carry each and every item. There's a certain person assigned to each certain item in the tabernacle.
Wow.
So there's somebody carrying the beams, there's somebody carrying the curtains, there's somebody carrying the holy furniture inside. And the holy furniture, they cannot just be put like on a cart. Right? So they have to carry it on their backs with a leather cover. It's really fascinating. You can go read it.
And it's the detail that the author gives is fascinating.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So the role, the Levites, you already mentioned, they're like Adam and Eve, the special representatives within this special nation, who are going to minister in the tabernacle and are going to, the priests are the ones who minister inside the tabernacle.
Inside, yes.
The Levites are sort of Timaki calls them the grounds and maintenance. Yeah, so they're going to help with the setup and tear down, like what I was mentioning.
Yeah.
And I need to mention this, that Adam and Eve are really the priests in the garden, in the first quote-unquote temple. So the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, just in case our listeners are wondering, what's this? They're the new Adam and Eve? Yes, absolutely. The Levites.
Yeah, God tells Adam in Genesis 2 to work and keep the garden, which is the same words that God instructs the Levites to work and keep the tabernacle.
There. Hyperlink, everybody.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so they have a special and dangerous role of representing God's blessing and presence to the other tribes.
Woo. And so, if you're done talking about the Levites, why is there so much paulit-ulit? What is all this repetition supposed to be?
So, are you referring to like the design patterns, or the just like in Numbers there's a lot of repetition?
No, the instructions.
Yeah, so there's a lot. So when you're reading the list, right?
Yeah.
You're listing the names of the people,
the
leaders in of each family, of each tribe, right?
Yeah.
And then when you list the numbers of the tribes, of how many men there are, they mention the tribe of the generation, of the clan, of their father's houses. Right? And then you go on, and when you read them actually setting out, right, in Numbers 10, right, where they're going to go and actually step into the wilderness now, we read again all those names from the start, right, all the leaders that they chose, right, and we read about all those thousands of men forming into the formation that God instructed in Numbers 2.
Wow.
So there is a lot of repetition.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think this is why, if Leviticus didn't stop you when you were reading your one-year Bible plan, Numbers is a good candidate.
That's right.
The repetition, much like the design patterns, that Numbers is, the whole Torah, right? Numbers, Deuteronomy, Exodus, Leviticus. We can't seem to have a conversation about any of these books without mentioning the other books.
Yes. Right.
Is because it's really just a feature of the Hebrew language. It's how the author is drawing your attention to focus on certain things, right? And so, and you might be feeling like, I get it, like this is important. There's like a lot of people and they're doing the same stuff that God said.
Yeah.
And you just wrote it exactly the same way you wrote it the first time. You could have just said, and so they did it. Hooray. Okay, move on.
Yeah. Next story, please.
That's exactly the point. They did exactly what God told them to do.
Yeah.
And, you should cherish it because, once we move forward, the rest of the story is them not doing what God told them to do.
Yeah.
So at least here in the first 10 chapters, they're going ahead and they're nailing their job.
Yeah.
They're doing exactly what God told them to do.
And that's going to be the key.
Right? The reason why the author is drawing our attention to them doing exactly what God told them to do is because for them to survive in the wilderness, it's going to require their obedience and their trust to the source of life, which is God. To the reason why in the wilderness they will find Eden. They will find an oasis, and they will be able to thrive. That is if they trust and listen to God's definition of good.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so the ark, the tabernacle, the ark, is at the center of the camp. And then when they move forward, let's say they start marching, they move that.
Oh yeah, that's a really interesting thing, where the tabernacle actually. So inside the tabernacle, you have the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
Right, which is sort of God's throne.
Yes.
Right. They bring it out when they're going to move.
Yes.
The Ark goes ahead of them.
Yes.
So God gives them instructions on how they're supposed to form when they're walking.
Yeah.
And you have Judah in the front, right, and the rest of the tribes, they're sort of in line 3 by 3.
Yeah.
But the Ark of the Covenant goes before all of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when God is, when they are
marching,
when they're in place, when
they're camping,
when they're camped, the tabernacle and the ark, God's presence is in the center, right? But when they're moving out,
it goes before them.
The ark goes before them. God goes before them. So God really will be with them throughout this whole journey. That's the picture of Numbers.
And it's so beautiful when you understand that from a pastoral perspective. We need to center our life on God. Every area of our life, put God at the center. And that's how you survive the wilderness of this world, the wilderness, the chaos that surrounds us. Put God in the center. And when you're moving towards a direction, put God there at the start and let him lead you.
That's right.
Follow God. Basically, that's the message of the book of Numbers. If you want to apply the truths that's being presented here, and that whatever you're learning, how do you apply this in your life? So that's what it means.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's we kind of really just skimmed through these 10 chapters.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that go on
There's
inside
a lot.
But yeah, hopefully that gives you a good overview of the first 10 chapters as they prepare to leave Sinai. Maybe just one last thought.
Yeah.
Sorry, going back to the repetition. It may seem tiring to read.
Yeah.
Imagine how much more tiring it was to write it down.
Whoa.
True.
Right? Because there was somebody who wrote this down.
Yeah.
And like, if there was anybody who was who should have been incentivized to shorten the repetition, it would have been the writer himself, because they're not
That's
using
true.
like a keyboard.
That's true.
They're writing every stroke, right, on their piece of tablet or parchment.
Yeah.
And I can imagine like the carpal tunnel that they develop, just writing these long
They're
lists.
probably like, can I just shorten it? Can we just get to the point? And like,
But
no,
they
write it.
They thought that it was worth preserving.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Stroke by stroke, letter for letter.
Yeah.
Because showing how obedience was the key
Yes.
to survival in the wilderness
Yes.
was so important to them. The only way that you could get a copy of the Torah or the what was written in the book of Numbers was if either you wrote it yourself,
Yeah.
you copied each word,
Yeah.
stroke by stroke,
Yeah.
or you paid somebody a huge amount of money, right, to do it for you.
Yeah.
So this was a labor of love,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right, to preserve this list of what and how the Israelites were, being arranged and being prepared by God.
And how they obeyed God.
Exactly.
Exactly the repetition of that of that sentence, of that phrase. As the Lord had commanded, they did it as the Lord had commanded. And just kept on and on and on. So
whenever the cloud lifted from over the tent, right?
Yeah.
So that was God's presence in the form of a cloud.
Yeah.
When it would lift up, that would be the sign for them to go.
Yeah.
Right. So whenever the cloud lifted from over the tent, after that, the people of Israel set out. And in the place where the cloud settled down, there the people of Israel camped. At the command of the Lord, the people of Israel set out. And at the command of the Lord, they camped. As long as the cloud rested, they remained in the camp.
Yeah.
Even when the cloud continued over the tabernacle many days, the people of Israel, they stayed there. They kept the charge of the Lord and did not set out. Sometimes the cloud was a few days over the tabernacle, so they remained in camp. But when the command of the Lord was given, they set out. Sometimes the cloud remained from evening until morning, and when the cloud lifted in the morning, they set out. Or if it continued for a day and a night, when the cloud lifted, they set out. Whether it was 2 days, a month, or a longer time, and whatever the time, the cloud continued over the tabernacle, the people of Israel remained in camp and did not set out. But when it lifted, they set out. I can imagine how you could easily ask ChatGPT, make that one sentence.
True.
But
actually
in Hebrew, this is really beautiful poetry of parallel
for sure.
structure.
Wow.
but there, it's just really giving you this very descriptive, very clear and detailed picture of Israel going where God is telling them to go and staying where God is telling them to stay.
Yeah.
Because He's going to be their desert guide.
And there you have it, guys. This is episode 2 of the book of Numbers. We are happy that we are moving forward. And just like the Israelites, we're praying that God continue to lead us every step of this journey. We will see you again next time. God bless you.